Question 16. What's the difference between the system.web.ui.webcontrols.datagrid and system.windows.forms.datagrid? Answer. System.web.ui webcontrols.datagrid doesn't have the inherited support for the master data structure that is detailed, whereas the support is provided for the inherited data structure that is used in system.windows.forms.datagrid. System.web.ui webcontrols.datagrid doesn't provide the two-way data writing and binding support, whereas system.windows.forms.datagrid provides a two-way binding of data source. System.web.ui webcontrols.datagrid provides manual data entry and allows only the editing of one row at a time in the grid, whereas system.windows.forms.datagrid provides good customization options with the web form features. System.web.ui webcontrols.datagrid inherits the support for the sorting and handling of the order to sort out the grid contents, whereas system.windows.forms.datagrid provides the binding and sorting of the grid contents to any object. Question 17. What is the procedure followed to add attributes in tr tag? Answer. To add the attribute to tr tag, first DataGrid item object is being initialized. DataGrid item represents the row in the DataGrid control and it helps in adding the attribute to the tag. The DataGrid item event args object is used to get the DataGrid item object that is passed into the event handler. The attribute collection.add method is used for DataGrid item object to add the attribute to the tr tag that stores the collection of the grid item. The addition of the attribute to the tag allows it to be represented in the web page or site according to the requirements. Question 18. How can the appearance be controlled in DataGrid? Answer. The appearance can be controlled by using the attributes and adding them using the programming. The tags that can be used are td and tr tags that allows the rendering by having the control on the browser, and the attributes that are used in this. Attributes can be used in the event handler for the onItem created or onItem data bound event. The attribute if need to be added, then a table cell objects need to be created that represents the cell in DataGrid. The DataGrid item event args object is passed to the event handler to be used with the table cell object, and use of attribute collection.add method allow the addition of attributes in the tags. Question 19. What are the different types of columns that exist in DataGrid? Answer. The different column types used in DataGrid are as follows. Bound column. This type is used to display the field in a data source. The field consists of an item in the form of text. This is the default column type in DataGrid control. Button column. This type is used to display the column that consists of editing commands used in the column. Hyperlink column. This type displays the content of item in the column as a hyperlink. The content can be in the form of a text or it can have an association with other fields. Template column. This type displays the item according the template, and it also allows the creation of custom controls for the templates. Question 20. What is dataset object? Explain the various objects in dataset. Answer. The dataset object is a disconnected storage. It is used for manipulation of relational data. The dataset is filled with data from the store. We fill it with data fetched from the data store. Once the work is done with the dataset, connection is re-established and the changes are reflected back into the store. Dataset has a collection of tables which has data table collection, which further has data row data column objects collections. It also has collections for the primary keys, constraints and default values called as constraint collection. A default view object for each table is used to create a data view object based on the table, so that the data can be searched, filtered or otherwise manipulated while displaying the data. Question 21. Difference between dataset and data reader. Answer. Dataset. Dataset object can contain multiple rousets from the same data source as well as from the relationships between them. Dataset is a disconnected architecture. Dataset can persist data. Data reader. Data reader provides forward-only and read-only access to data. Data reader is connected architecture. Data reader cannot persist data. Question 22. A do.NET code showing dataset storing multiple tables. Answer. Declare and initialize database connection object with appropriate connection string. Create a data adapter and a dataset object. Using fill method of the data adapter object, load the data into the dataset object. Change the adapter's select command. Create the empty tail table. Add both tables to a single dataset. Display the data using data binding feature of controls like DataGrid or DataList. Question 23. Why cannot I add an entry via the grid for a table containing a CLOB column? Answer. In older versions of Toad, the grid is limited to adding / modifying CLOBs for existing records. This should be working in Toad 7.6. Note, however, that since Toad does not support Unicode databases, that there are often errors when viewing CLOB data in the data grids for databases with Unicode character sets. Question 24. How do I copy a whole row or multiple rows of data? Answer. To copy one row of data, put your cursor in a cell in the grid and press Ctrl+ Insert. This will copy the row and its column headers to the clipboard. To copy multiple rows of data, right-click in the grid and choose Allow Multi-Select. Use Shift-click to select multiple adjacent rows, or use Ctrl+click to select individual, non-adjacent rows. Press Ctrl+C. This will copy all of the rows and their column headers to the clipboard. To copy a single cell's data, turn off Allow Multi-Select. Click on the cell you want to copy and press Ctrl+C. Question 25. How do you customize the column content inside the data grid? Answer. If you want to customize the content of a column, make the column a template column. Template columns work like item templates in the data list or repeater control, except that you are defining the layout of a column rather than a row. Question 26. How do you apply specific formatting to the data inside the cells? Answer. You cannot specify formatting for columns generated when the grid's auto-generate columns property is set to true. Only for bound or template columns. To format, set the column's data format string property to a string formatting expression suitable for the data type of the data you are formatting. Question 27. How do you display an editable drop-down list? Answer. Displaying a drop-down list requires a template column in the grid. Typically, the item template contains a control such as a data-bound label control to show the current value of a field in the record. You then add a drop-down list to the edit item template. In Visual Studio, you can add a template column in the property builder for the grid, and then use standard template editing to remove the default text box control from the edit item template and drag a drop-down list control into it instead. Alternatively, you can add the template column in HTML view. After you have created the template column with the drop-down list in it, there are two tasks. Question 28. How do I change the grid pop-up editor font? Answer. Another one from the list. Harold asked more than I changed the font for the data grids, so I could look at Unicode. Now I see the chosen font in the data grid, but if I open the pop-up editor it still gives the old font. Is it possible to change this font also? I didn't find it in the options. Or could you make the grid pop-up editor font the same as the data grid font? Question 29. What is a data grid or grid view? Answer. The DataGrid web server control is a powerful tool for displaying information from a data source. It is easy to use. You can display editable data in a professional-looking grid by setting only a few properties. At the same time, the grid has a sophisticated object model that provides you with great flexibility in how you display the data. Question 30. What is the difference between the system.web.ui.webcontrols.datagrid and system.windows.forms.datagrid? Answer. The web UI control does not inherently support master detailed data structures. As with other web server controls, it does not support two-way data binding. If you want to update data, you must write code to do this yourself. You can only edit one row at a time. It does not inherently support sorting, although it raises events you can handle in order to sort the grid contents. You can bind the web forms data grid to any object that supports the IEnumerable interface. The web forms data grid control supports paging. It is easy to customize the appearance and layout of the web forms data grid control as compared to the Windows Forms one.